Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle, along with my co-host, Rachel Santizo.
Hello.
Welcome. And our guest, Anne, who we will introduce in a minute. This is one of the most watched and listened to podcasts dealing with addiction and recovery.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No.
You didn't?
I thought I was the only fan.
No. No, we have a lot of people out there. We have thousands of them, actually, all over the world. And I'm making a plea today so that more people can watch or listen to this. If you would subscribe, follow, or review us.
Yes.
That's I don't know how the internet works, but somehow that spreads the word,
Yeah.
and then more people can watch and listen to this. And if you do it on where you can see us on YouTube or listen to us on iHeart, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you can get podcasts, just Google Odyssey House Journals. So if you would do that, say please.
Please. And the most important part is please do it so we can continue sharing stories to the best of our ability, because the stories are what's the most powerful for our community.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank
You ought to work in TV or something. The whole point of this is to provide knowledge and inspiration. If you have a loved one who is dealing with addiction, or if you perhaps are dealing with addiction, and one person who knows all about addiction is our guest today, Ann Coburn, right? And the positive things I can say is she loves dogs, she loves her children, she loves her husband, but there was a negative side to Ann as well, way back when, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Should we start with we always talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you want to start with the ugly?
Yeah.
Years ago, what was your situation?
So,
I know you may not want to, but I just led it into that. So.
yeah, well, and I'm really old. I'm getting older, we'll say, so it's hard for me to kind of take it back that long ago. So when I actually am a graduate from Odyssey House. I graduated in 2003. I was living in Madison, Wisconsin, and strung out on, heroin and alcohol. And I was
before you came to Odyssey.
And I was just a disgusting mess. And I flew back here because I couldn't do it anymore. I had overdosed out there. I thought, oh my God, what if I died out here and nobody knew?
Are you from Utah?
Yes.
Okay.
What were you doing in Madison? Going to school?
I was.
Or doing drugs. I mean, Madison
school?
Madison, for those of you who don't know, is a liberal bastion, compared to the rest of Wisconsin.
Yeah, UW, the Badgers.
Yes.
So anyway, I was living there because I had a boyfriend there.
There we go.
And you were a disgusting mess. What does that mean?
My dream boy was like this, tattoo guy that could beat up anybody and, just whatever, do drugs together, get drunk, get free tattoos. It was kind of like in my mind, it was kind of like having this trophy guy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
And so he is a huge heroin addict and, speedballs, so I started doing heroin out there. And I was already a raging alcoholic at that time. And so I lived out there on and off for 4 years, mostly on, until it just got so, awful that I came home. Like I was begging my mom, please buy me a plane ticket. Let me come home. And my mom was like, I don't have money for you to come home.
How old were you?
I was 23 by the time I came home. And so I was like, well, I need you to ask, I had one of my friends, paid for my plane ticket to come back here. And she's like, you're going to have to go to Odyssey House. I was like, oh my God.
No.
What were the stories then?
Well, my cousin had went through Odyssey House.
Okay.
And he was like, he is prone to embellish a little. So I don't know exactly, but he was in a ton of shit. So he was going to prison for a real long time.
Okay.
Like 25 years. Or Odyssey House. And so that's how my family was aware of it. But at that time, at that moment, I would have joined the army to get out of there. You know what I mean? It's just you're going to the military. I'd been like, okay. So I agreed to go, flew home, went to admissions, And I had drove to Milwaukee. Well, my friend drove me to Milwaukee like 4 a.m. so I could get on this plane and bring all my shit with me, go to admissions right after I got back. So it was like, 10 o'clock or whatever. My family takes me down there. And
You mean right from the plane?
right from the plane. So I'm like dope sick,
was gonna ask.
covered in track marks, probably like 120 pounds, which is clearly not the case today.
Okay, 125.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So I have this tank top on with a pentagram, like skin tight black pants. My hair was probably black or something. I don't know. Just looked like death. And I'm angry and pissed off. And we walk into admissions, and my good friend now was like, "So, Patrick Adams, who are we meeting with today?" I was like, "Wasn't it fucking obvious?" Sorry, that was my one. That was my one.
That was your one. We said, please don't overuse the F word.
Yeah.
So that was one.
There's
I'm gonna
one. Keep a
track
tally.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did, back then we had clients that worked at admissions and did all the screenings and all that stuff. So I did all that, went to my doctor. He prescribed me a bunch of Librium because there was no way I was going to be dope sick at
Right.
VOA.
Yeah.
Got to VOA and had taken a shit ton of those Librium away. So I was
Like,
I was kind of a
what-
mess.
yeah,
I'm like trying to
yeah.
unpack, and I had like one shoe in my bag that I took.
That's so badass.
And like no underwear. And so then the next day, when I came to a little
I'd
bit,
love to have
like
seen video
real.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's like
such a
real
mess,
life right
dude.
there.
and I like really had no idea all this existed, like detox, and there were some real pros in there. They've been there like 20 times,
Right.
Sure.
It was like their weekend getaway.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I left, went home to get some stuff with more of a clear head. The cops came to my mom's house because she left town. Sorry, Mom, I'm going to put you out there, but she left town. She's like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm going to Oregon. And it was, okay.
This Ann, she's a hard one to deal with.
So I go home. I get a babysitter. My brother's girlfriend at the time was babysitting me to make sure I didn't do anything crazy. And I was just like doped out on benzos and put some stuff together. My friend picked me up, took me back. And then I was there for 21 days because I was such an asshole. Like, they came to see me. They came to see me from Odyssey House. And I was 23 going on like 17 maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And thought I was just such hot shit. And, they're like, yeah, you're going to stay here for another week. But...
At
then,
detox.
yeah. And
And
I was...
Odyssey didn't want you to come in yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's my understanding, because normally you're there for like two weeks or whatever, and then you come in.
Right.
Max, yeah.
So I finally got my release day after trying every angle I could to get out of going. I'm like, I'm not a criminal. I've never been to jail. That's for people like Craig, my cousin. And, like, I'm like this sweet, innocent little junkie, that steals from people and robs cars and, has dabbled in, selling drugs and things. But that's not for me. I was like, well, you ain't going anywhere. You're never going to see your nephews again, which was all I really cared about at that time because they're like my little brothers. And so I went, and it was crazy. They were in this big issue, and people were having sex and splitting the program and giving each other, contraband and just all this stuff, right? So I was like, what in the fuck am I got myself into?
That's
Like,
two.
Sorry. This is insane. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get better from this.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of like stayed there, and I had this plan. Like, I only had to stay for 30 days. And so I was like telling my family, come pick up my stuff from personals, because there's a lot of people from out of town and they don't have storage for all my stuff when I have people here locally. Because one thing I was never going to do was come back after I split from the program. So I didn't want any of my stuff there. So I made those arrangements, and I just kind of fell into a groove, And I mean, that was kind of it. Like, I was there for 27 months. There was...
Slow learner.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing. Like, I never broke any cardinal rules. I never took a border. I never went LACA. And it still took me that long because it was so fun and pleasant. Everybody liked me, especially the staff. They loved me.
Oh my goodness.
I doubt that.
And Coburn, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, there was
No, so you really fit into Odyssey. I mean, coming in from that background and that shitty attitude.
yeah,
coming
I was
in
like perfect, dude. I was like perfect fit. You
Wow.
know, I have these like old Mormon men being like, I'm not like you people. You know, I do pain pills. You shoot drugs with needles. And I was like, you cut your fucking toes off, dude.
3.
Like, we aren't alike. You're right.
Yeah.
We are not alike. You
Right.
cut your toes off to get pills. That, to me, is I don't even comprehend that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just do heroin?
Okay. That's
You know?
that's the bad and the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So you graduate from Odyssey after all that time, and we
Yeah.
should point out that back then the program was much longer than it
Yes.
is now.
Yes.
You know, so it's not like if you come to Odyssey, you can expect to be there for 3 years or something.
Well, yeah, not anymore. Even though, like, I'm sure there's some people who could benefit from that length
Yeah.
of stay, but yeah, and we don't do that anymore. So I moved out, I graduated, moved out, worked there for a little while, left, worked at Benchmark Hospital, which is a adolescent
Right.
program for boys. Met my husband there, not as a patient. He was a man, a grown ass man that worked there too.
Okay.
Just to clarify,
Not the way it
because
sounds.
that would be really
he was one
weird.
of the boys
Very.
at
Yeah.
Benchmark.
Oh God.
Progress,
Just call me
not
Mary
perfection.
Kay. You know? No. That's disgusting. He was a guy that worked there. He's older than me. He was really hot. He was the shift lead. Well, they call it something else back then, but yeah. So then we ran away to Vegas, got married. My family was up in arms. This is the dumbest thing you've ever done. Really? Are you serious?
Out of all the
Out of all those
I
other
li-
things, jeez. You're getting married, you've graduated from Odyssey, and it's the dumbest thing you've ever done.
Yeah, but
well.
they're wedding people, so they're like, how could you not have a wedding? And I was like, because it sounds terrible,
Yeah.
you know? So anyway, 17 years later, we're still married, have a kid. She's 8. She's hilarious and a genius.
Not that you're biased.
No, but her teacher might be.
Ah, okay. And if you'll notice, if you're watching as opposed to listening, Anne has an Odyssey House staff badge on.
Yeah, yes.
So you have, ever since I've worked here, you've been in charge of one of our residential facilities.
Yes, and so I've been since 2003, like working out in the field, getting licensed for substance abuse counseling, and running in different programs and settings and stuff. And then my good friend Cheryl Shivers, special shout out, program director, called me and was like, "Hey, do you want to come work here?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And then I was like, "Wait a minute, all these kind of like things that were going on here, they're not happening anymore. Cheryl's in charge. I can feel good about it."
Yeah.
And so I came back to work, moved over to Mill Creek once we opened up over there. So I came back just as a counselor, and then have been the program manager at Mill Creek since we opened. That was about, I want to say January 18th, 2018,
Yeah.
when it opened.
And the one thing I want to shout out about Anne is you've listened to her background, and you may say, what the hell is she doing dealing with addicts? But the other thing you might say is she's the perfect person to deal with people in recovery because you were there and you understand things. And nobody's going to pull.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very hard to pull the wool over your eyes.
Well, it is mostly. Sometimes, I'm a sucker at just like anyone else. I want to be like riding the train of hope and optimism with you, and yeah, let's do this. And they're like, we got it. We didn't really get on. You're riding alone on this train. And I'm like, oh, okay. Meanwhile, my little protege or whatever is out running and gunning and bringing in contraband and doing the most. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, so
It's
devastating.
heartbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
But
You still get devastated?
oh yeah, all the time. Like I feel like this is a profession and a field where you have to prepare to get your heart broken, and that has to be kind of like something that you learn to be okay with, because there's a lot of different layers. Like people give up on themselves. They don't see their potential. that you see. You know, they break rules and do all the things, and then, you know, a lot of times they go out and die, and that's the most heartbreaking thing. But I love Mill Creek because the population we serve is just such my jam. You know,
Yes.
it's
People
like,
who were just like you were.
yeah, except for like face tattoos, and they've been in
Yeah.
prison for
Yeah.
like half their life, and you know, they're all in gangs or, you know, whatever. Like
Yeah.
the people that the rest of the world would look at and just dismiss and throw away and be like, yeah, just lock those people up forever.
Yeah.
You know, and those, I love them because they're like so smart and, you know, creative, talented. And once they turn the corner and they get it, oh, it's so awesome, so powerful. You know, it's like my favorite. I have a little goosebumps thinking about it.
They really are the leaders. Like it's that stigma when you just see someone, but man, what's inside the hard work, the efforts, like the talent, the skill base. Mm-hmm. You know,
People who may be watching or listening to this don't realize probably, unless you've been addicted or have an addiction, that you really, it's hard to deal with an addiction. It takes a lot of hard work.
yeah.
I mean, if you think about, like, I know there's a lot of judgment out there. Like, people will be like, how could you ever choose drugs over your kids?
Which happens all the time.
Right. And it's not because,
Yeah, Rachel.
It's not because,
Rachel did that.
you know, they're even in control of their brain. Like, we do drugs, our brain is overwhelmed, you know, with these substances, and it attaches itself to the part of our brain that tells us to eat, sleep, have sex, you know, drink water, like the survival pieces. And so if you look at it kind of like that, yeah, I'm not going to die if I don't have these drugs, and my kid is definitely more important. But if your brain is telling you on a certain level, like, no, you have to have this, that becomes the priority for survival, you know? And so there's really a lot more than goes into it. Just like this willpower thing that you should know better or do better. Or,
Right.
you know, you shouldn't, who would ever pick their, you know, drugs over their kids? And it's just not that simple, you know? And then we have this whole system of mass incarceration in our country.
Right.
And, you know,
War
so
on
all
drugs.
these people who need treatment and need help are being locked up and thrown away, and you don't get better in there. You got to
No.
click up with somebody, get a swastika tattooed on your face or whatever, you know, just to survive in there. And that's abnormal. That's not humane, you know, because you held up a fucking pharmacy to get pills. Sorry, that's
4.
you know, like you're
4 F words.
You're messed up. Like, I don't know, the prison is the place to fix that about you.
When
Right.
you go to use the F word again, let me know ahead of time, and I'll go beep.
Okay, I will. I'll try to like get ahead of it.
All right.
Sometimes it just rolls out.
Yeah,
What-
we'll just
you
be-
you have a happy life now. At least me watching from the outside, I see your posts on Facebook, and it seems like you're happy with your husband and your daughter, and
all my dogs.
and all your dogs. I
Crazy
don't know how
dog
many do you
lady.
have now.
We don't want to talk about that on air.
What?
How many dogs I have?
Oh.
I have a few dogs.
Oh, it could violate a city ordinance, but it doesn't. But
Yeah.
okay.
In
So,
Tooele, which is where I live.
she doesn't really.
Maybe I live in Salt Lake, where there is no limit. How about that?
Okay, that's good.
I have 4 dogs.
What?
I know.
There it
What
is.
are we doing
It's like
right
my
now?
source of shame right now. I'm all, I have 4 dogs.
Where do you think you'd be had you not found recovery? Where do you
I would be dead. There is no question. I wouldn't have went to prison. I mean, I was pulled over multiple times for driving drunk and just let go home. You know, I was greeted at the baggage claim in Salt Lake City by the DEA
really?
when I was 18, and coming back from LA, you know, and so like, and that was just like a whatever, you know, like they searched our stuff and, you know, whatever happened. But yeah, I've never been to jail. I've never been arrested for anything other than stealing a pack of gum and a tank of gas. And so in my mind, there is no question I would be dead. There was multiple times where I was like overdosed and passed out for days at a time, and I would just wake up and be like, God, what day is it? What fucking time is it? What, you know?
Yeah.
And when I was living in Madison, I did overdose, and they came and took me to the hospital, like gave me Narcan, and that was a whole thing, and it was terrible. And Narcan gives you a really bad headache,
Yeah.
really bad.
Really?
Yeah, but this was like 20 years ago too. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was we all knew about it, but it wasn't like this movement now, you know. And so, no question, you know, I would be dead. I wouldn't have made it this far.
The question I always want to pose, because everybody wants to know, is what do you think prompted you to decide to seek recovery? Or is there any kind of generic, I wish there was, like if you press number one, here's what will prompt a loved one to want to find recovery.
Yeah.
Is there any answer to that?
I think it's like Family Feud. You're guessing and hoping that that's the answer that works for you.
Yeah.
I was family ordered to treatment, you know, and the thought of not being able to see my nephews again or having them in my life was unbearable.
Yeah.
More so than the rest of my family. I was like, whatever, but just to not have my nephews. And then when I got there, it wasn't even about wanting to be there. Like I still thought I would drink alcohol. You know, I just needed to stop doing heroin, you know, and get a job. Which is funny because like everybody on parole is like, I just need to get a job and I'll be fine. But you know, this is your fifth parole buddy. You've had jobs. Like, what was missing?
Yeah, it's true.
But so, you know, I had these thoughts, and then I was given a lot of responsibility, and I kind of just initially I was so busy that I just didn't really have too much time to think about anything else, you know. And then I started building relationships with people. I kind of found my footing in there in my own spot. And eventually along the way, like no matter who wasn't rooting for me, I had a few key people, you know, from the treatment team who were rooting for me, you know. And then there was people who I would watch getting in trouble and just doing all this stupid stuff, and where normally I might have kind of gravitated towards that crowd, I could see them just doing all this stuff, and I was like, I don't want anything to do with that. And, you know, I was so much better than everybody else. They were all having sex with each other. It disgusted me.
Yeah.
What about?
I was like, no.
What about?
And I've got to stop you right now because people are going to have an image here that people at Odyssey are having sex with each other all the time.
People in this world are having sex with each other all the time.
I understand that, but that is one of the cardinal rules at Odyssey. And not to say that it never happens, but it doesn't happen the way you're describing when you went in.
Well, I think it still does. It's very taboo. They're not supposed to do it. Like you said, it's a cardinal rule. It's a major rule violation. But it's very...
also is a big learning lesson at the same time because it's co-ed, and so it's like, oh, you're looking at me, you want to take care of me, or I have
whatever is my issue,
Exactly.
it's coming up, and I'm getting validated from this attention. And so if I'm not doing drugs or committing crimes, what's the next thing to kind of make me fill me up, right? Yeah, it's attention.
It can be
nothing feels better than like, hey girl, you look good today. Thank you. Hey girl.
It's true. It's a great learning opportunity at the same time. Like when you look at it and putting co-ed or you have people that have been incarcerated for a long time, what are they going to do humanly? Like when they get out, what's the direction? What are they looking at? And then realizing like, I'm not even working on me. I'm still wanting that attention.
And one of the reasons we're co-ed is because I think we look at things like this is what you're going to, this is how real life is going to be when you get out,
exactly.
right?
Right. And so if you go to treatment and you're not working on these kind of things and addressing them, like we anticipate the behaviors and the things to happen because they are learning lessons. But when you get out, you're more likely to recreate this messed up dynamic that you came from if you haven't been practicing those skills and boundaries while you're in treatment.
Right.
You know, and so how many times, well, I'll tell you how many times, like all the time, we see people that leave, go back to old relationships that were harmful for them or engage in new ones because they haven't really sorted out that, you know, whole like respect for myself and respect for others.
Well, and also I think being supported, right? So if you make a mistake, so in Odyssey, like you realize that that's why you have the cardinal rules, but when you make a mistake and you're still supported and people are still standing beside you and showing you a different way versus like judging you, that's where the power comes in.
Yeah, and then the peers get together and they're like, man, that was a terrible choice. And how do we help you get back up on the horse, you know? And for the most part, staff operates that way as well. You know, it's kind of like I have people come into the building every day who are liars and dishonest and they steal stuff and have all these like dysfunctional behaviors. Like, how can I really be too upset when that's what's happening in treatment? That's what they're there to work on. So it's kind of like an internship, you know,
to real life.
Looking at it.
Like,
I love that.
You're going to go and train for all these things. We'll give you some new coping skills. to send you out with some new, attitudes on life and view
That's
the world
great.
differently and, different ways of dealing with things. And so, it's super rewarding.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because deep down, you sort of talk a tough game, but deep down inside, you're a very gentle, loving, caring person.
Are you saying that out loud?
I'm your shrink now, and I've analyzed you, and I've seen right through it.
You just
But-
outed her.
Yeah, I did. But
I'll lose all my street cred.
Let me ask you. Yeah, I screwed everything up. Let me ask you how you feel when you see success. I mean, because you are dealing with some really rough, hardcore people when they first come in.
Yeah.
And so when you see success and you see people out in the world happy and loving themselves and doing good things, how does that make you feel?
Oh, there's no feeling like it, like watching people come together and lift each other up and, support each other and, hold people accountable when they're starting to slide. And now we have these great jobs, or I'm back in school, not me, but them, back in school or doing all these things, reconnected with their families or their kids or whatever. Like, I mean, that's the paycheck. You both know what I'm talking about, working at a nonprofit.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But that is it. Like, that-
We don't work there because we get rich.
No. But that's it. Like, it's so rewarding and it helps prevent burnout. It helps me come in every day and deal with people who, and I'm guilty of it too. Like, oh God, this person is such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like, they got to go,
Yeah, sure.
And then remembering, like, it helps me to remember, like, you were a pain in the ass too.
Yeah.
And all these other pains in the asses are now really successful and doing big things. And everybody has that in them,
Right.
And so, there's just nothing like it.
What
I've
would you
been in this
say?
field for like 20 years. Like, it keeps me coming back.
Yeah, what would you say to somebody that's struggling, or you went across state lines, and so what would you say to somebody that's just thinking about possibly finding recovery?
Studies show you don't have to necessarily be super motivated to be successful. Like, we have a lot of adjudicated people that come into the program, or family ordered people, right? Like, the magic happens when you're there. Just give it a shot. I'm gonna tell you this, like, even the people who are not necessarily successful at Odyssey because they leave early or, go to another program, they're still way more successful than the people who don't come at all. Like, they still maintain those values, when throughout their life. So, like, I was at VOA a million years ago, and there was a ton of people who had not been there, who had split the program. And they still were, like, philosophically holding on to some of the things that they learned there, some of those standards and expectations. And I thought it was super cool.
Right. It kind of ruins it in a sense.
And the thing is, I think because a lot of clients I talk to have been to like 6, 7, 8 rehabs, okay? And part of their thinking, the people who are thinking clearly, say at each one I picked up a little something, and all together it finally worked.
Yeah, that happens a lot too, Like, there's not one perfect path or prescription for treatment that works for every single person, I think that there's a lot of there's a lot of value in, like, learning all different kind of paths to recovery. Like, some people are all about AA, some people are all about rational recovery. We have a TC model,
Therapeutic community.
Yes. for my guys and gals works the best.
Yeah.
And that's because of that peer interaction and peer pressure to perform and follow rules and stuff like that. There's also a lot of value in just, like, going in and telling your story and
Sure.
dealing with your traumas and, having different, EMDR and things like that to help work through that. And so as much as you can get, like, we like to have, I believe, like, we have all of that kind of stuff inside our TC, and that I am biased about because of the population that we work with. But I think, like, you go in and you try and, like, something's not working, there'll be something that works. Like, you'll figure it out. You'll find something that works for you and that clicks and the light bulb goes on. Because I know people aren't happy when they're out using. You know,
No.
there's nothing good about that. Even we kid ourselves or, try to make it seem cool. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think each person who's struggling with addiction knows, like, I would rather not be doing this.
Right.
And I think like for the future too, like planting those seeds, because I've heard so many times when people go back out there, like, I really miss this, or I really miss
Right.
this, or, oh, I need to be accountable. Or you can start looking at others to hold them accountable, right? It brings these pieces inside. And so I think that's the magic of it is regardless, like if you just step in the door, you learn some things and it can like
Sure.
ruin your high.
Yeah.
Your future high.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, our 30 minutes are up. See, it went quickly.
Wow, thank God.
See, I told you.
Just kidding.
Thank God.
We're going to sit here and have a after party after hours.
Yeah, but you won't get to see
Our
it or
rated
hear it.
version.
Yeah, right. Well, you only had 5 F words.
Oh, it was 5?
Yeah.
That's
In-
good. It's
In a
pretty good.
normal
It flowed.
conversation with Ann, it would probably be a lot more.
Oh, and it gracefully flowed, for
So
sure.
Thank you.
You
You're welcome.
practice very good self-control. Thank you.
I could have done better.
Ann Coburn was our guest today. Thank you very much. You were
Yes.
wonderful.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks
Rachel,
for
it was
having
good
me.
to see you again.
Thank you.
And just
Serious.
a quick reminder to subscribe, follow, and write a review on what you said. Even if you want to say that, you were offended by what Ann said today, we'd love to hear
Yeah.
from you, right?
Of course.
See?
I'm
There
open
you
to
go.
feedback.
Yeah.
And I'm not for everyone, so I know. I might rebel some others out there. Just let us know.
So thank you for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.